So, how do you go from being an amateur mixing and mastering engineer or a bedroom producer to someone at the highest levels? So, in this video today, we are going to talk about three different habits that A-list mixers do every single day. And these are habits that you should start developing and doing yourself if you're trying to get to that pro level. Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Bobby Balo, and I'm the mixing and mastering engineer at Raytown Productions. If you're new here, thank you so much for being here. Be sure to hit that subscribe button because I drop new videos every single week to help you level up the quality of your music. To thank you for your time today, I have a gift for you. In the description is a link to download my favorite free mixing and mastering plugins. These are plugins that I use all the time when I'm mixing and mastering music. I have every single type of plugin in there, including some samples that you might be able to use in your productions. So if you're looking for some inspiration or just need some new tools and tools that are totally free, definitely go and check that out in the description. Okay, so three habits that pro mixers have that make them pro. Number one, they use and they frequently update a mixing template. Now, this may sound silly to a lot of you, but guess what? A mixing template allows you to be consistent in your mixes. When you're working off of a mixing template, you know exactly how everything will come out on the end. Of course, you're going to make a bunch of adjustments along the way, but it sets you up for success. People go to these A-list mixers because they know that they're going to get a quality product in the end. And the only way to do that consistently is to have and use these templates. It gives you a strong foundation so that you're not guessing how all the pieces are going to fit in on your song at the end. The other thing these templates offer is proper gain staging throughout the entire session. Now, for in-the-box mixing, gain staging doesn't really play too big of a role in terms of the audio quality of your plugins. Most of them don't rely on an input value except for limiters or some sort of dynamic processing, but it's not like you have to worry about headroom problems in the box. And that certainly isn't the case for analog because that needs the proper voltage to operate according to its specifications. So in that case, gain staging plays an enormous role. The important takeaway when you're mixing in the box in terms of gain staging is, again, for consistency from song to song. So if you're mixing a big album and you're just making up your gain staging as you go, you're going to run into problems with consistency as the songs progress. And no A-list mixer is ever going to make that mistake. So while it's not elegant, it's not cool, it's not fun, I highly encourage you to start using a mix template on all of your songs. And every time you've run into a problem, fix the template and save it as the new version so you have a strong foundation every single time that you're mixing. So if you're wondering how you can make a better mixing template, the answer, unfortunately, is that you just have to put in the time and mix a lot of songs that aren't all the same. That is where you'll learn how to design your template to accommodate different types of songs and song arrangements. And anytime you mix a song and your template doesn't really work out and you have to add a bunch of tracks or something, make that change in your template and make that your new updated template. And as time goes on, it's going to become the ultimate template for you. And I know this works because I've been pushing one of my coaching students, Robert, to do this. And in as little as a week or two, his mixes have gotten so much better. And he does it in like an hour instead of days. And that brings us to the second habit, which is that they mix quickly. Now, don't associate quickly with lazy or not caring because they absolutely do care. What I mean by mixing quickly is that they'll identify a problem, make an adjustment, bypass that, verify that the problem is gone without affecting the other elements in the song, and then they move on. They don't sit there and try to tweak every little detail. They just hit the big problems and get moving. And why is that important, you might ask? What ends up happening if you don't fix the problem and move on is that you very quickly lose perspective of the song. You lose your gut instinct on what the vision should be like. So if you take too long to make a decision on, oh, do I want to use an LA2A or a 1176 compressor, and you don't have it all figured out in your template so you know how it's going to sound, you might have wasted too much time, and now you lost perspective, and you're going to be making poor mixing decisions. So something you can do to combat that which is what I've done, is I have a timer in my studio, and I only allow myself about 10 minutes of mixing before I have to take a break. And all you have to do to take a break is literally get up out of your chair, walk outside, take a breath of fresh air, and then you can go back to your studio. And more often than not, that is enough to get you reset and ready to mix again. Another option is to have reference songs that you have loaded up in your sessions so that you can just listen to what other professional sounding mixes and masters sound like to regain that perspective, right? You know those mixes sound great everywhere. They sound great in your car. So hop over to them, listen to them to remind your brain and your ears of what a good mix sounds like, then get back to your session and get moving. Trust me, the human brain in our ears is pretty crappy. So you will forget what a good sounding mix sounds like if you work on a song for more than about 10 minutes. Which brings me to the third and final habit that most professional mixing engineers have, which is that they often mix in context more so than in solo. Now, you might have heard this before, and I thought I understood what that meant when I first started mixing. Turns out that wasn't the case. It took me about 7 years to fully grasp this concept, so I'm hoping I can explain it in a way that maybe will save you a few years. Now, mixing in solo is important. It's a necessity on every single mix. I do it on every single track, but there's one key distinction. The purpose of mixing in solo is to solve any major flaws with that particular instrument track. That's it. It's not to design the sound of that instrument. It's not to get a tonal balance of the instrument. It's simply to fix any major problems. For example, let's say you're playing a song and you notice the snare has a loud ringing sound to it. You'd pop over in solo, notch out that ringing frequency, and then get out of it. You don't want to sit in solo and make all the adjustments that you think the snare might need. Now, when you play the song back, you notice that there's no more ringing, but the snare's kind of hard to hear. Now, instead of just soloing the snare again and then boosting a bunch of high frequencies, there's a different question you should ask yourself. Is it the snare that's the problem, or is it actually everything else in the mix? If you want to see if the snare is the problem, just solo the snare. Does it sound like a snare? Does it sound good? If that's the case, it's probably everything else in the mix that's actually the problem. So this means you need to make room for the snare in your mix. And you don't make room for your snare by just boosting the high frequencies of the snare. This is when mixing in context comes into play. And the only way to do this effectively is to play everything together and then put an EQ or some other tool on a bus or some other instrument and try to carve out frequencies and listen for where the snare then pops through. That is making room for the snare to live in your mix. Might it sacrifice some of the guitar tone if you just listen to it in solo? Absolutely. But no one listens to the multi-tracks in solo. All those pieces have to work together to make a great sounding song. And once again, these decisions on what frequencies to cut to make other elements pop through can only be done by playing all the tracks together and mixing in context of the music. So there you have it. Those are 3 different habits that you should start doing immediately if you want to do this professionally. Those 3 habits are going to build a foundation for you to deliver consistent and great sounding mixes every single time. And you're going to be way faster at mixing, which if you are a pro A-list mixer, you're going to have a lot of work to do. So carve out some time this week to dedicate to building an awesome mix template that you're going to improve every single time you mix a song, and you're going to establish that foundation to make amazing sounding music. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on these 3 habits and if you actively do any of them. Did I leave any out? Are there any that you would suggest? Drop them in the comments below and let's start a conversation. If you thought this was helpful or insightful in any way, give it a thumbs up, and it would mean the world to me if you would share this video or another one of my videos with your friends or social media groups on Facebook or Reddit. That helps get the word out about this channel, and I think it's going to add some value to other people that might be trying to level up their mixing or mastering game that are still kind of not quite there yet. And a final reminder, don't forget to go and grab your download of my favorite free mixing and mastering plugins. All that information is in the description. And with that, I want to thank you so much for your time and attention today, and I hope to see you in another video.